Well, this one has to be the most, let's say, salacious theory that I've seen in terms of conference realignment. Is the ACC getting sabotaged by their TV partner?
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Shout out to the everydayers for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. I'm Alex Donno from Locked On Canes. He's Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. Kenton, are you ready to dive into, I don't know if I should call this a conspiracy theory, but I think that's exactly what it is, because it's a theory about conspiracy. Do you want to dive into this?
Oh, this is absolutely the stuff of conspiracy theory. Locked On ACC family, break out your tinfoil hats and get that little gavel from Party City and get ready. Yep, there we go. There we go. Get ready. Get ready to have some order. Order in the Locked On ACC court. Order, I say, because we're about to put our armchair lawyer suits on and get in our succession bag.
So this thread on X is getting noticed and getting talked about by a lot of people. It's from a user who goes by Inside the Big 12. I think I've seen some of his posts pop up before. This is probably the thread that's gotten him more traction than anything he's ever posted before. So Inside the Big 12, and I cannot speak for his connections or sources. You're just going to have to either take him at his word or not. But he wrote today, ESPN has approached FSU, Clemson, and the ACC about a potential settlement allowing the Seminoles and Tigers to leave the ACC whenever they want, but an ESPN broker deal is only possible if FSU and Clemson leave for the SEC. Then he says, why? I'm glad you asked. He continues, because ESPN is the exclusive rights holder for both the ACC and SEC. Moreover, ESPN is a partner in both the ACC network and SEC network. ESPN would not lose money if FSU and Clemson are in the SEC as opposed to the ACC. He continues, the basics of the potential settlement are, point number one, FSU and Clemson would pay an exit fee equal to what Texas and Oklahoma paid to exit the Big 12 plus a percentage. Point number two, the ACC would retain the rights to FSU and Clemson home games, but license those rights to ESPN for SEC broadcast. Point number three, the ACC receives 50% of the fair market SEC value of FSU and Clemson home games in both football and basketball. The percentage the ACC receives would decrease each year of the agreement. Point number four, ESPN would pick up the option on the ACC's contract until 2036, but would renegotiate the terms to reflect the loss of value from losing FSU and Clemson. Point number five, the SEC, namely FSU and Clemson, would be contractually obligated to play a top-tier ACC program each year. My source tells me, he says, that the details above are the initial opening proposition, and they will change slightly as negotiations change the details, but the basics will remain the same, he says. So, okay, the way that he paints this, he tries to paint it like it's a win for all parties, but I think that there are a certain number of parties within the ACC, not named Clemson and Florida State, who may not feel like something like this is a win, Kenton.
You know, Donno, I need you to pass me that tinfoil hat as well, because it's very clear to me that these theories that are being thought out, you know, I'm just going to say this. Whoever his sources are that said this, there's also one key detail that Donno left out. All of this was supposed to be unraveling tonight, or I'm sorry, last night.
Oh, I didn't see that.
That was the other part. Yeah, he said that this was going to
I don't think I got that far down the thread.
He said that all of these things were going to play out within the next 24 hours, and that 24 hours is starting retroactively from the morning before this was recorded. Okay? Oh. Or I'm sorry, from the morning before when you are hearing this. So with that in mind, I called around because, you know, Donno and I, we've been doing this for a little while ourselves. You know, Donno and I have combined nearly 3 decades in the game at this point. I want to say somewhere around there. I put in some calls myself. I reached into to some of my source, but I said, "Hey, what's going on, man? I'm hearing that this is what's the deal? What's going on?" And I was literally laughed off the phone. They said, "Kenton, if there was something like that going on, we would tell you." If that was the case, and that was going to be put out in the next day or two, you would know. But with that being said, one thing that I will give this person credit for is the logistics kind of work out if you don't think about it that hard. That's what I was told by one of the people who didn't laugh me off the phone. You know, the old saying, "You sound smart to a dumb person." That's basically what I got told here. I was told that if ESPN were to do this, that is what is considered in antitrust laws excessive control. They're forcing one entity into a complete other conference and strong-arming all parties involved into agreeing to this deal. That, my friends, is not legal. Right. You cannot force one team away from you when whatever team forces their way out, be it Florida State, be it Clemson, be it Louisville, be it Pitt, be it Wake Forest, be it Boston, whoever it is, if they find themselves away from the ACC, they then have the rights to go shop around, talk to every conference. Right. If the WAC were to come back, exactly. If the WAC were to come back and they had $1 billion to drop on a TV deal, they'd say, "We'll pay you $1 billion to be on CBS with us." Hypothetically, they have the right to go talk to the WAC. They have to have that right. They have to have that ability. Again, if not, something really unscrupulous is going on. A lot like how Donno and I kept saying, if either of these teams had already been talking to another conference behind the ACC's back, and the ACC were to request a FOIA and pop that, oh, guess what? We're going right back to court, and that one's going to be short. That one is going to be short. That one's not going to be nearly as long as you think it is. So this is one of those threads where things could resemble something along these lines in a few months to a year, something along those. But, you know, this is one of those very fantastical, like, oh, I'm a source, I'm a guy who knows things type of thing. Because, again, Donno and I are waiting because it should be going off at the time of this recording or in the hours shortly thereafter if the timeline that we were given was correct.
Well, and because the other thing that and I can understand why that threat is compelling, right? Because certain parties would theoretically win there. Obviously, you know, and let's just assume Florida State and Clemson just want to be anywhere but the ACC, then that's a win for them. And obviously the SEC is a fine conference, but this would assume that they don't really want to be in the Big Ten, which a lot of people support Florida State to Big Ten would be more likely. But theoretically, Florida State and Clemson win because they get out of the ACC, right? Obviously, the SEC wins, and I can see why ESPN would win there because an even further strengthened SEC is probably more valuable to them than the ACC in terms of their TV deal. So I get that. He basically writes it off like it's a consolation prize for the ACC because they get their renewal. They get a diminished renewal, but they get their renewal through 2036, which essentially means the conference will survive. Okay, but here's what I feel like gets left out there. There are 13, soon to be 16 remaining members of the ACC. Or I don't know whether you count Notre Dame or not, but you know, whatever. There's either 12 or 13 remaining members of the ACC who would be suing ESPN into oblivion if they found out they were orchestrating this deal, Kenton.
Yeah. And that's what I keep. Again, this is why I said we're going to get ready to put our armchair lawyer suits on, and why I've got my Locked On ACC gavel here ready, because there's no order in this court right now. There's no order in this court. In what world do you think that you can cut the legs out of 12 different teams financially by basically telling two, hey, we'll sweeten the pot to ensure that you all have a soft landing over here. Right. And the 12 that have the legs cut from under them are like, well, it's better to be together. None of us know where we're going to go.
We're so happy for them that they got, and we're going to band together. We'll be great over here. We'll be awesome.
And here's the fun part, Donno. Even with your winners, let's do the math. The winners are set to go in at a 50% rate. Donno, how much is the Big Ten, or I'm sorry, the SEC set to make next year, football-wise? Was it about 50?
Maybe over that, but yeah, about that.
Let's get aggressive. 60?
Yeah.
The ACC is set to make how much? 30?
30.
If the SEC is set to make 2 times as much as the ACC, and Clemson and company, Florida State and company, just accepted half for them to leave, did you just spend a few $1 million on lawyers to break even?
That's a good point. Yeah, just so you can say you're no longer in the ACC, it's a win.
Oh, well, later on.
And then the other, yeah. And another part, when I think about people who would want to sue ESPN over this, which would include the remaining ACC teams that would sue them, also Fox and the Big Ten would also sue ESPN for that.
So you only guarantee this team safe passage to this conference dependent upon they don't look at the other option, which could give them more money?
Yeah.
That seems legal. Yeah. That seems very legal. So you guarantee that the conference they were leaving would be safe so that they didn't look over here at us.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. Yep, that's how business is done.
By the way, that would also open the ACC to get sued by the remaining. Now they're already getting sued by 2 of the schools in their, so maybe they're so used to getting sued now they don't even care. But they're not currently getting sued by the Miamis and NC States and UNCs and Georgia Techs and so on. But I guarantee you they would then sue the ACC and ESPN if they orchestrated this happening. I want to talk about some of the responses to these theories, and then I also want to get into. Some national rankings are coming out. Top 10 coaches in college football heading into next year. Is the ACC well represented in that? Is anybody left out of that list? And On3 Sports ranked every ACC head coach 1 to 17 heading, and that includes the incoming new members, 1 to 17 heading into next year. So you know what you want to do, my friends? We're only getting started. You want to keep it locked right here on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Folks, eBay Motors has gotten me out of jams with my vehicle. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time and your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. Hey, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Alex Donno from Locked On Canes and Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack with you. So, Kenton, you were when you alerted me of that thread and those theories. You brought some of the responses to my attention as well. A good one came in from Jeremy, who said, "Hey, collusion, anybody? ESPN trying to force the ACC to let schools out of the grant of rights while dictating said schools go to a specific conference that ESPN has a vested interest in while attempting to sabotage another conference that they are invested in. Sounds like big lawsuits." I couldn't have said it better myself. It sounds like a lot of lawsuits.
Order in the Locked On ACC court. Order in the court. Because, again, these threads are moving out of order. They're moving on some foolishness, okay? Now, as my mother would say when we were about to go into a store, y'all go in here and act like you got some sense. That's what I'm going to start quote tweeting all of these threads with all of these fantastical ideas of what's going to happen. You all get in here and act like y'all got some sense. Because this young man, Jeremy, he clearly has some sense. He clearly has something about him that's like, something about that doesn't exactly feel super legal. Something about that, it just reeks when you put it up to the smell test, when you put it up to a little bit of critical thought there. So shout out to Jeremy for that.
Well, it doesn't, like ESPN, they have to walk a pretty delicate tightrope. I know that they've unfortunately had to go through several rounds of layoffs. They've been hemorrhaging money. Isn't Disney looking to sell them and kind of bounce them off their network of assets right now? So yeah, I'm pretty sure that Mickey Mouse is still running the show there for now. I don't think Mickey wants to open himself up to that sort of scrutiny and those sort of lawsuits.
Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Goofy, none of them want to step foot in that court. Not for no foolishness that they're already trying to unload. Come on. What do we do?
Yeah, there's another response to the thread from Hickmania, who said FSU has made it pretty clear they want the Big Ten, not the SEC, especially given what happened in the playoffs. Why would FSU not just push to discovery and force the hand? I predict Florida State will leave for the Big Ten, having paid exit fee plus 2 years of T1 rights. I do say that once they get to the discovery phase of these lawsuits to get. That's going to be super interesting, Kenton. I'm going to have my popcorn ready for that because it's obvious the ACC doesn't want certain parts of their business out there. Neither does ESPN. They don't want those TV contracts out there. So, yeah, discovery is going to be a lot of fun. And that, based on the way it's trending right now, Florida State, they're probably feeling pretty good about that ruling in Florida, or very good about that ruling in Florida earlier this week. So maybe that would be the better route for them.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll tell you this. Again, everybody keeps swearing that us two are delusional and that we think the ACC is going to be together till 2036. Again, I can speak for me and Donno, and trust me, I don't speak for other people, especially those that I'm not paying their bills and all that. And last time I checked, Donno handles all his responsibilities. I handle all of mine. I'm telling you right now, I can speak for me and Donno in saying the ACC as it exists today will look very different by at latest 2030. And I'm not just talking about the new teams that are being added. I am 1,000% sure of that. The ACC will look different. But what we are talking about right now, I keep trying to tell everybody, we keep imagining that court works how it does in Law and Order. We keep imagining court works how it does in Monk, in Psych, in Perry Mason, where we get the gotcha moments. It does not work like that in real life. It doesn't work that way. Court is boring. It's really, really boring. Lawsuits are boring. They're really, really long, really, really arduous tasks that take time. And here we are at the start of something, because last time I checked, everybody filed in the beginning of this year. And we're 4 months in and everybody's swearing, my side's going to shut them down now. Oh, my side's going to kill them. Stop it. There's plenty of time to go in these things. And as much as Donno and I would love to see this thing in so we could strictly talk what's happening on the field with the rosters, with the coaches, with the portal, with all the things, we would love to talk about that. But as long as these folks continue to tell us, oh, the eclipse is here, the switch will be flipped for the ACC, we continue to have to address things like this.
Hey man, I spent like 2 hours at a spring football practice today. I want to talk football, and we will talk a little football, if not football adjacent, when we come back, because a national ranking by ESPN, when they're not too busy sabotaging, they're still writing articles at ESPN.com. Top 10 coaches in college football. Does the ACC have enough or too much representation on that list? And on 3, ranked every ACC football coach 1 to 17. Are they ever going to forgive my guy Mario Cristobal for the lack of kneel down last year? You will find out after this on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. And if you haven't tried Game Time, You're about to find out when you log on to the Game Time app, the amazing deals you can get. I'm finally living in a world where procrastination gets awarded. I mean, it's crazy. This changes everything I've known about ticket services, because usually if you wait till the last minute to buy tickets to a sporting event, concert, comedy show, you're probably thinking, oh man, I should have done this a month ago. I'm not getting good deals. No, you're getting incredible deals on Game Time. Whether you want to buy early or buy late, you need to give the Game Time app a try. This is the only ticketing app that I use now, folks. I believe in this. And Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. You could save up to 60% buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater. Flash deals. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Folks, the all-in pricing is such a relief because it shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you so much for making this episode of Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. Kenton, I'm going to give you ESPN's top 10 list of college football head coaches heading into next year. The ACC has a couple of representatives on this list. Number one head coach, I'm not going to argue with this one, Kirby Smart of Georgia. Number two, Kalen DeBoer, now at Alabama. I mean, is he getting, a bit of an Alabama inflation there? Because I know he just coached a team to the national final last year. But DeBoer, he's got a big task on his hands replacing Nick. I think number two, it's a little premature for that. I'm sorry.
Say them boys doing tricks on it, huh? Yeah, that's a little bit crazy. That's a little bit crazy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Two is very high, and I get it. There are, with Nick Saban retiring, I don't believe that there's anybody who's won a national championship in the last, decade still coaching other than Dabo and Kirby. So I get it. I understand that he had to be high. Two feels a little too rich for his blood, just a little too rich.
What about Kyle Whittingham at Georgia, number three? Or sorry, Utah. What is Georgia? Kyle Whittingham at Utah, number three. I think it's interesting that they have him one spot ahead of Dabo Swinney, who is a two-time national champion, and it wasn't that long ago. 2016, 2018. Whittingham he's done a hell of a job at Utah, but basically what he's done is like kind of overachieve at Utah without winning the big one. Like, should he be ahead of Dabo?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And here's the thing, right? Unless you're judging this by not your previous body of work, but what we project that you do going forward, and even then, it's still kind of rough to have him over Dabo, because I understand Dabo's refusal to use the portal is problematic. That is problematic. I've been the biggest proponent of Dabo is going to get left behind if he doesn't use the portal. So I'm not going to sit here and act like that's a small deficit or a small chink in the armor. No, that's a huge hole in the armor. Absolutely. With that being said, as much as I want to give Whittingham credit for winning at a higher level than Utah is used to, I'm sorry. You've got to win you a natty. You've got to win you a chip. If I'm going to predict that going forward, you're going to be better than a national championship winning coach, especially which division or which conference is Utah going to now? They're going to the Big 12.
Big 12,
right?
Yeah.
Big 12. I can see them wrecking shop in the Big 12, which would make
they're actually all the preseason prognostications basically have them bossing the Big 12 next year. Of course, Oklahoma and Texas on their way out, Utah on the way in. Are they the new gold standard in the Big 12? We'll find out.
I'll tell you what, if that's the new big gold standard in the Big 12, more power to them, and they can do a lot to justify that ranking this year. they can also do a lot to lose it this year.
Yeah, so Whittingham is a spot ahead of Dabo Sweeney at number 4, and then Mike Norvell comes in at number 5, and he comes in ahead of Dan Lanning at number 6, Steve Sarkisian at 7, Lane Kiffin at 8, Lance Leipold at Kansas at 9, and Ryan Day, Ohio State at 10. So I was reading the comments on that article. I'm not really gonna argue where Mike Norvell is because Florida State has had a solid upward trajectory, and they should have been in the playoff. I don't think they would have done anything in the playoff, but they should have been in the playoff last year. Yeah, but a lot of people in the comments on that article, maybe it's just all Ohio State fans weighing in. They thought that Ryan Day at number 10 was way too low. I'm not so sure that was way too low.
I think it was too low. I want to say way too low now. I don't want to say way too low. You know what I mean? Like some of the guys they put in front of him, what has Dan Lanning done to command that position? What has he done to demand something?
Yeah, he's put together really good teams, but he hasn't gotten over hasn't gotten over the Utah and Washington humps.
And I was just about to say, where have those really good teams gotten them? At least they can say, hey, I've been to the highest heights.
Yeah.
I've climbed to the top of the mountain. Even if do they have a national championship under Day? I don't believe they do.
No, I think the last one was under Urban. Let me fact check that real quick. Keep going.
Either way you cut it or slice it, I think Day has done more than a lot of that bottom part of that list. And again, if we're going strictly by like 100% projection of the future, where we barely attach in a past to it, which really then that doesn't make sense because how do you project the future without the past? But I don't see a world where you have that many guys over Day. I just don't. I'm sorry. I think Day belongs somewhere in that 6-7 range. That 10, I ain't gonna say Day belongs in the top 4 now. I ain't gonna say nothing crazy like that. But Day belongs in that top of the bottom half range.
He's not won a natty, by the way. He's won the obviously the Big Ten twice, and he's won the Big Ten East 3 times.
Yeah, and listen, give Kansas coach love. Turn around what Les Miles did. That turf eater had them looking down horrific, down horrendous. Good job for turning the program around. How do we put that in front of Ryan Day right away?
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I get the whole argument of like, oh, coach of the year goes to a coach who coached up a team that everybody thought was going to be bad and they turned out to be good. But there's a funny thing that happens in college football. You don't have a GM. You don't have a director of player personnel and all that the same way you do in the NFL. The head coach does that. That's the head coach's job. His job to start is to say, hey, we need to go get this kid, and this kid. And these are the positions we need to fill the most. Now, how y'all go about doing that, bring me the players. I'll tell you yes or no, but I got to say so on that. I got the approval on that. I'm going to be the one making the call on whether or not that guy's good. And so, to see that folks are getting credit for taking over bad teams and making them good, but Ryan Day is not getting credit for maintaining the level of a college superpower, that feels a little shady to me. It feels a little icky.
Well, I want to tease the other side of this list for next time because we'll discuss on our next episode if the head coaches strictly in the ACC are ranked correctly from number 1 to number 17. I feel bad for number 17. We'll talk about who that is and why he is where he is. Alex Donno from Locked On Canes, Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. We'll see if there's still an ACC come Monday, Kenton, because these rumors are getting crazy now. We'll talk to everybody next time. Go ahead.
It'll be back. 1 week after Good Friday, we're going to have the worst Friday, apparently, in the ACC, where it's not bad Friday. It's the worst Friday, y'all. Be prepared. Be prepared. It's just like the Eclipse. It's just like 2012. It's just like Y2K. Be prepared.
We'll be ready. We'll talk to everybody next time on another episode of Locked On ACC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.